There's an investment category that's safe, secure, and asset-backed, and it's not your normal category that you would think of.
A 500% growth in value over the past decade.
And the liquid is soaring.
The number one performing alternative investment class, believe it or not, is actually whiskey. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you step by step how to invest into whiskey and to do it the right way, safely and securely, and to be able to avoid all the pitfalls.
I actually didn't know you could invest in beverages at all. Usually you hear of whiskey going for extraordinary prices.
Once I understood what whiskey returns could give me, it was an obvious choice.
Investing in liquid gold. A new report says that an increasing number of investors are turning to whiskey to hedge against COVID-19. Up next, we speak to the Whiskey and Wealth Club. This is Bloomberg.
Whiskey is the number one alternative investment right now and in the future as well, beating the likes of vintage cars, gold, even wine.
Right now with the state of the world economy and investments not performing, such as properties, we've seen them go backwards. We've seen the stock market go yo-yo. We've seen cryptocurrency be wildly staggered.
People want safe, secure investments, something that's going to stand the test of time.
So when it comes to investing, there's problems that you have to be careful of. There's pitfalls, there's everything, and everybody's looking for safe and secure.
We found that when they had invested into things like stocks or they had invested into gold, these markets have been up and down and they fluctuate all the time.
When you look at the stock market, I mean, it's gone, yo-yo, right? It's been up and down because of the turmoil of financial markets.
When the financial crash hit in 2008, a lot of people obviously lost their jobs, me included in that.
The volatility of the stock market affects people's lives, people's jobs, their homes, the ups and downs, the stress.
Currency is the same, cryptocurrency is even worse. There's just not a lot of safety out there and people are looking for something that's safe and secure. And I found that the safest and secure way to be able to safe harbor money away for a later date is whiskey. And not just any type of whiskey, there's two types of categories that you should specifically look at. Of course, rare bottles of whiskey is a phenomenal way to make good returns, but also casks of whiskey.
When we looked at the historic data, we realized the types of people, the commodity, its history, the steady growth over the last 20 years, we were blown away.
It still is a surprise to many people. Only a small percentage of individuals, the average Joes out there realize that you can actually invest in casks.
So when we stumbled across this, started looking at the mathematics of it, and it was an industry that was previously not available. It was something that was really kept in a smaller circle, an exclusive circle within the whiskey industry. Brokers, traders, people that worked in it their whole lives. And it wasn't really out there as an investment.
You had to know someone at a distillery or you had to own a bar or something like that before being able to get involved.
A world of cask ownership previously unattainable to investors like you and I.
What we found is these distillery owners were screaming out for funding. They would obviously spend 15, 20 million on building these facilities. They would then have to buy the barley, they've got to buy the wood that it sits in, they've got to run the stills, they've got to pay staff every single day, but they're unable to sell this liquid. It has to sit in a barrel for at least 3 years and 1 day before it can be sold.
We don't have all of these overheads that go into operating a distillery. Combining that with a huge buying power, we figured out we can get our clients entry to the whiskey space a lot cheaper than going directly to the distillery themselves. This allows all of our clients to come on board and take advantage of our ultra wholesale rates.
When I started putting this together, we realized that we can partner with distilleries, buy a certain percentage of their stock off them, put a margin on it for ourselves, obviously turn a profit as a company, and then sell it on to our customers with 10 years of storage and insurance added on. So in 10 years' time, when our customers go to sell that, or in 5 years' time, that the profit that they make is far greater than the initial sum that they came in on. So the customer wins, the distillery wins, and then we were able to win. And I kind of had this eureka moment that this is something that could be, it could transform investments forever.
Tell us a bit about how investing in whiskey works.
Yeah, so obviously if you're investing in cask whiskey, distilleries are making new make whiskey, and there's a certain period of time before they can obviously turn a profit on that once it matures. So they opt to sell some percentage of what they make initially in casks to the likes of investors. So what Whiskey and Well Club does is we come in and we buy a large percentage of that to be able to then sell on to our clients, and yeah, it basically helps distilleries be able to cover the costs, their running costs, keep the lights on while they're waiting for whiskey to mature that they've already made that year.
I've been involved in the whiskey industry for nearly 40 years. I met up with the directors. I went through the business model, the history of the company, and the fact that they had been trading for some time in Irish whiskey, and looked at all the business model, projected costs, what they were looking to sell on at, and I was comfortable with all of that. And they were asking all the right questions about, the quality of the barrels, the storage, the insurance, dotting all the I's, crossing all the T's.
When you explain a little bit more background into the demand and the quality of the product that I'm investing in, you can see the little light bulb go off in their mind, and a bit of realization kicks in, and then interest.
Great asset, great value, great to hedge against the loss in my portfolio. I think it's an opportunity to take. You shouldn't miss out on that.
What stands the test of time, if you like? What keeps going up?
So the one thing about whiskey is that, its price point has always gone up in value over the test of time. If you look at how long whiskey's been on this earth, whiskey has always gone up in value. Now, yes, there's been ups and downs in the whiskey market where there might have been oversupply in the 1980s. There's been a few other things. But when you look at all the different wars, from world wars to global pandemics to, oil shocks and everything else that's happened, from, tulip mania back in whatever it was, the 1600s, we've had so many ups and downs and recessions and depressions, expansion and contraction. And all the way through that, as all these other markets went haywire, whiskey always stayed on the up. And the reason why is because as whiskey's made, the older it becomes, the more scarce it becomes. Because what happens is that the majority of whiskey, 89% of all Scottish whiskey, is sold before its 8th birthday. And the reason for that is because when a distillery makes whiskey, they've invested a lot of capital. And what they're trying to do is, as soon as they humanly can, they want to be able to sell that in bottles at 3 years old, at 4 years old, at 5 years old. They're always trying to come up with new ways to be able to sell it younger. So by the time it gets to 10 years old, there's not a lot of it left that was made that year. Whether there was 5 distilleries operating at the time or 500 distilleries, there's not a lot, because 89% of all of it is gone. Because all of those distilleries are selling, otherwise they're going out of business if they don't sell. Not every distillery that opens up can just sit on their whiskey for 10 years, 20 years. It's physically impossible unless they've got billions in the bank when they started, and still it wouldn't make any business sense to do that. So no matter what, as whiskey gets older and older, no matter what, no matter how many distilleries there is, there's always going to be a scarcity situation. So the longer you leave it, the more it goes up.
Essentially, what makes whiskey, whether it be in the cask or in the bottle, valuable? There are a few things, but one of the biggest factors, especially in bottles, is rarity. So if something's done in limited quantities, there's a lot of value to it, especially if you combine that with the actual brand that it is. For example, everyone knows the Macallan. If they release a rare bottle, it goes for crazy money, even on the secondary market. So once the first buyer buys it, the next person that buys it off them, it's going to shoot up in value. So rarity, scarcity, and brand are the biggest factors when it comes to actually valuing casks and bottles as well.
So if you can combine all of them different factors into the perfect investment, you're going to make money and get a very good ROI. I mean, this particular warehouse probably houses about 85,000 barrels. You'll have the likes of a Macallan 1998, which is worth probably around about, I would say about 350,000. So this obviously is worth probably the same price as a house. And we're storing our barrels in between all of the finest whiskies in the world.
You understand that whiskey is probably the best alternative asset class on earth right now, specifically rare bottles of whiskey and of course casks of whiskey as well. But the main issue is that which ones do you pick? Who do you go with? What company do you trust, number one? And number two, what type of whiskey? Not all whiskey barrels are made equal.
Some whiskies will grow in value quicker than others. So it's really important to think of a few things when you're choosing a cask or a bottle as well.
There's whiskey barrels that are 30 years old that can sell for 15,000 a barrel, and there's whiskey barrels that are 30 years old that can sell for 450,000 a barrel. Well, what's the difference? Because they're both the same age, they're both the same size, but they're from different distilleries, and that really comes into it, because when it comes to whiskey, whether it be rare bottles or whether it be casks, it's really driven on three main factors. The number one main factor is, of course, the amount of supply into the market. If there's a distillery making millions and millions and millions of litres of liquid a year, and they're selling all of it in casks, it doesn't matter how many years into the future, there's always going to be too much supply of that particular type of whiskey, so the price is always going to be low. If there's distilleries that are making smaller quantities, let's just say they make 800,000 litres, but they only sell maybe 100 or 200,000 litres in cask and keep the rest for themselves, when you see a situation like that, you know 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, that liquid is going to be far more scarce and it can become far more valuable because of that. So scarcity is a big one, that's the key driver.
The size of the production is very important. So when we look to partner with distilleries, we do have a bit of a checklist. One is we like privately owned distilleries, so not big billion-dollar companies.
We've got scarcity, we know it needs to be a brand. And then when it comes to the cask side of the business, we need to know who that master distiller is.
We like strong leadership within the distillery, so the actual master distiller and the people making the whiskey.
So that'll dictate, obviously, if it's world class, they win awards and they're well regarded, we know the liquid's going to be good and we know it's going to be done the right way. We know that the brand has raving fans and we know that there's not a lot of it available. That drives it much more than the fourth one being, of course, its age. Age does dictate price, but only about that much of it. Now, when you add in a world-class master distiller, when you add in a branded distillery, and you make sure that it's a distillery that only made so much production, a smaller amount of production, when you add those layers in, which is what Whiskey and Well Club specializes in, you then can hyper-charge the growth that it can go to. Rather than it just going like this, it's going like this. And that's the key to investing into whiskey in casks.
To be involved with potential clients' future for their own family, it is a privilege.
What sets us apart is our distillery partnerships that we've built over the last 21 months.
We're always making sure we are working with the best possible brands who offer exquisite whiskies.
We're offering private investors the opportunity to invest in cask whisky at wholesale prices which has never been available to the general market before.
What makes us different from our competitors is that we only work with a branded distillery and we have an exclusive arrangement directly to that branded distillery, so the resale value in years' times is far higher. We sell someone a cask, our job doesn't finish then. It goes on for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
To walk through this warehouse and to know that Whiskey and Wealth clients will one day fill this whole room with their casks is a great feeling.
We are not just another investment company. We are pioneers. We are trailblazers. We are constantly knocking down doors. And of course, the awards and accolades will follow.
To find out the first winner of the UK Business Awards 2020. This is for the best new business. Not an easy time to set up a new business.
And the gold winner is the Whiskey and Well Club.
Second award of the day.
Yeah, we're absolutely humbled on both of them. We didn't think we were going to win on the financial one and then to win on this one. So we thank you so much. The whole team here has been sitting around. We've given them half the day off because we were excited about these awards. So thank you so much for the award. It's been amazing.
Create a new business in these times is a hugely difficult thing to do. So many congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so we won gold. Can you believe that?
Whiskey is obviously a very exciting category, it's very interesting, but there's definitely some things to be wary about. Number one, you want to make sure that you have full traceability of the cask that you buy. You want to make sure that who you're dealing with is compliant. So HMRC offer compliance for the whiskey industry because, of course, all casks in Scotland, for example, are part essentially owned by the HMRC because they're not leaving the bonded warehouse until they get their duty. So it's a very, very highly regulated business. So there's a license or a regulation called WOWGR, And that's something that we make sure that we kind of led the charge as any company that's in the industry to make sure that we were ahead of the game on that, and we're the first ones to get WELGA regulated. But of course, I think regulation should be even deeper than that. For us at Whisky and Well Club, we always like to take things to the next level and do it as highly compliant as possible. So we're now seeking FCA regulation. So already in-house we have a compliance officer. We already have a financial crime officer to make sure that everything that's done is done the right way.
Bringing together a financial crime program that allowed them to secure their HMRC registration through WELGA. I've had a lot of industry experience in regulations in financial crime, having worked in financial services for over 30 years, and so I was pleased to be able to come in and help and share my knowledge and experience.
Every barrel has a unique number associated with it, and each of those barrels has a unique space. HMRC can and do inspect warehouses, and HMRC don't say you can pay me next week, next month. You have to pay them there and then.
So when you're talking billions of pounds that the government has a share in, they have to make sure that it's highly regulated.
What we've tried to do, and I think we've done this quite successfully, is become as compliant under HMRC regulations as possible.
So one of the great things about my job is working with great people. One of them being Jane. Jane, in her 30 years of experience working in the sector, she had a set of requirements to make sure that Whisky and Wealth were being compliant.
We've retrofit our office and spent hundreds of thousands to make sure every step of the way we're completely compliant and everything is fully traceable and fully transparent. All the way through to the distilleries that we deal with and the types of system that they use. For example, DRAMS is a software system used by our partners Bladnoch that will allow us to see full traceability of exactly where every cask is situated in the warehouse, and any client at any time can know exactly where their cask is.
I have to say their commitment was unwavering, their resources that they dedicated to this were strong, and that resulted in a successful completion of their registration a few months later. So hats off.
We've recently got our WELGA licence and our X64 registration.
Whisky and Wealth have going a bit beyond what they could do, and that they are being more careful about everything. Yes, it gives me comfort.
It was very clear to me Whisky and Wealth did not just want to be run-of-the-mill whisky broking company. They wanted to go over and beyond that. They wanted to be able to give their customers comfort and a sense of they really knew who they were dealing with. They are setting the standard for all the other whisky broking houses to now follow. So congratulations to Whisky and Wealth for getting that stage.
So another thing to make sure of is, where's your casks being stored? Are they being stored at the distillery that made the spirit? Are they being stored at another bonded warehouse? For us, for example, we do have some distilleries that will store on site, and we have other distilleries that we store off site at. For example, Campbell Meyer up here where I am today, which is just south of Glasgow. Probably one of the largest storage facilities in Scotland, one of the best known bonded warehouses. And bonded warehouses are key. I mean, obviously it's a bonded warehouse, right? So there's levels of government control in regards to what can and can't be done in a warehouse such as this.
Each bonded warehouse is governed, controlled by HMRC. And if you're operating a bonded warehouse, you have to give HMRC certain bonds, i.e. they hold a charge over your assets. It is within their power to withdraw your ability to operate a bonded warehouse. If that happens, then all the stock that's in the bonded warehouse becomes liable for duty with immediate effect, which is not lying in the bank. So every cask is accounted for, and the value of the duty is generally so much more than the value of the whisky that there are no shenanigans in the Bonded Warehouse Keepers Association. It's all 100%.
You obviously want to make sure you have insurance, right? So storage is important, make sure it's with the right bonded warehouse. What type of insurance is over your cask? What happens if, your cask gets banged into by a forklift truck and it gets burst open? All your liquid empties out, there's no value there. So you have to make sure you have the right levels of insurance. We've worked very, very hard with the top insurance broker in Scotland that's been doing this for over 30 years to make sure that we have the right types of insurance over the casks. So let's touch on the big one here, exit strategies. Being with the company is going to be able to get you out of your investment at a later date.
When it comes to selling casks or exiting your investment, there are quite a few ways to do that. The most obvious one that you're probably thinking is auctions. For a long time they were done offline, but with the age of the internet nowadays, there's more and more auction sites coming online. Another option would be to sell to another investor or a collector. So for example, an investor may want to buy a 10-year-old cask and take it to 15 or 20 and sell for their retirement. Or, a collector may want to just buy one cask and then, keep it for themselves, drink it over the years, pull a couple of bottles each year to see how it's maturing. So that's another option, investors or collectors. These guys are happy to buy low volumes, so they're willing to pay more.
There's potentially other whiskey brands that might buy the cask back off you. But if you don't have knowledge of these whiskey brands or you don't have connections there, how are you going to do that, right? Or if you don't really understand what prices they charge for these, maybe you don't have any luck on the auction website. So there is all these variables that other companies will just tell you, hey, don't worry about it, just buy the cask and there'll be someone to exit you out in 10 years, guaranteed, blah, blah, blah. Don't listen to that, all right? The only real true way to exit out of your cask, in our opinion, is to sell your cask to what we call an IB, which is an independent bottler.
So there are companies out there, they're not like the high volume brands you see on the shelves. They're a slightly different business model. So what they do is they look to buy rare casks. So they look to buy low volumes, one cask at a time, maybe 2 or 3 to do a small batch release.
And what they'll do is they'll then bottle that into their own brand, and they'll sell them then to their customers that want those kind of rare limited bottle releases. Because of course you've got big brands like, the Jamesons of the world and the Johnny Walkers and all of these big huge brands that do millions and millions of bottles a year. But some people don't want to drink something like that. While that is good and it's consistent and it's regular and people know those flavors, some people, connoisseurs more so, like something where there's only 300 bottles in existence or 400 or whatever it might be. Those are what we call independent bottlers. They buy these casks and they do these rare independent bottlings.
We're here at the Irish office. We've just met up with a client just to buy out their casks from them.
My name's Ed O'Brien. I just finished a university degree for maths and economics. The only reason I was exiting the investment is because I needed the money to pay for the degree, the last of the degree. Otherwise I would have stayed in longer. Over 20% return, which is pretty phenomenal considering by bank standards.
My name is David Spirica and I have been invested in Whiskey and Well Club for 3 years. I was there from the very beginning and I was their first customer. I exited after 3 years because I'm renovating my house and I needed basically money and now in this very moment. But of course I know that if I stayed for longer the returns would be obviously much larger with every year.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the return I got. Very happy with it, yeah.
I was well informed about whiskey, what's the maturing process. I felt comfortable enough to go ahead and invest with them.
Solomon in the UK looked after me. He was very good with paying attention to what you were saying and trying to accomplish what you wanted.
I signed the paperwork with Scott and I'm proud to be a first person exiting the Whiskey and Well Club. I am very happy with my returns. I would definitely recommend investing in Whiskey and Well Club and I will indeed invest myself again.
One of the benefits of dealing with Whiskey and Well Club is, of course, you're getting the best distilleries in the world with the whiskey that's going to go up the best in value, but you also get that safety net of a buyback. Now, you don't have to choose to do that. It's just there as a safety net because we have our own independent bottling company and we would love to buy those casks, bottle them and sell them on to our other consumers that like these rare one-off bottlings and we'll pay the money for that. So if you're going to exit your casks, you want to make sure that you exit them with the best ROI in the quickest manner possible because who knows what the future is going to hold for you. You buy these casks and you get into a financial situation or a medical situation where you need to exit and you need to exit quickly. You don't want to be waiting 6-12 months for someone to be able to go and sell these casks for you. Another exit strategy that we offer for our clients that, again, nobody else really has is we own our own brands, the Craft Irish Whiskey Company, the world's most exclusive collectible Irish whiskey. So we've just recently broke a world record for the world's most expensive bottle. We broke another world record for the world's most expensive inaugural release. We've won golds and master medals in everything that we've entered into. Have the highest collaboration partnerships of really anybody out there except for Macallan, but in the Irish market of anybody. Partnering with Fabergé, partnering with the Michelin Guide. So the Craft Irish Whiskey Company can, of course, for the Irish cask that we're sitting on, can buy them back. We also have a Scottish brand. We also have a range of other products within our company where we can be sitting there buying these casks back off you and being able to give you a premium on them based on what anyone else could.
It's entirely up to you. You obviously own the wood, the spirit that it sits in. We will help you to facilitate that in the future.
I guess the thing that really differentiates us is that we're not just an investment company in casks. We're passionate whiskey people, right? We've owned a whiskey company, the world's most exclusive and collectible Irish whiskey. We have been in this business for a long time. We have a YouTube channel, me and a couple of the guys in the office, where we taste whiskey, we review whiskey. This is what our passion is. This is what we know, and we know it better than anybody. We've been doing it a very long time, and we're in the weeds of it day to day. You need to really make sure when you do this, you do it with the right people. Knowing the right cooperage, knowing the right storage facility, having the right insurance companies, making sure it's the best spirit that it possibly can be in the first place, that are tied to the right brands, and paying for it at the right price. You shouldn't be paying through the nose. So you're getting the best spirit from the best distilleries at the best possible price, and then you have the team behind it that actually care about whiskey, and we care about this business long term. We've proven that with the Craft Irish Whiskey Company. The Craft Irish Whiskey Company's come out of nowhere in a very short space of time and changed the face of the Irish whiskey game. And when you look at what we've done, you'll know how much passion and how much love and what we have within this business. So they're the types of people you should be putting your money with, and the people you should be investing with, to know that you're getting the best product that's going to last the test of time.